Yes, sir. Now, today, we're going to talk about heavyweight boxer Anthony Joshua. Now, it came out yesterday, man. Now, we seen that fight, man, about 10, 11 days ago, right? And we just see an interesting trickle of events, man, in these athletes' career, man. Right when they're at the height. And then we see them always lose somebody around them right at the height of their career, right? So without further ado, man, we're going to look right into this situation and we're going to see what's going on. Now, back on December 19th, Anthony Joshua defeated Jake Paul by a 6-round knockout, right? The former heavyweight champion overwhelmed Jake Paul with power and experience, earning a 6-round KO in their highly anticipated Netflix main event in Miami. So first, let's look into this fight, man, and let's see why Jake Paul met his demise. And it really wasn't even worth no money. If you was a betting man that night, Anthony Joshua was a heavy favorite that night, unless you was to bet on the round or something, or bet on the knockout. I don't know what the case would have been, But let's look at it, man. Because if we look at the span of Anthony, Alasani, Joshua, right? Now, regardless if I said that right, I'm going to make it seem like I know how to say it right. But anyway, if we look at the span of his life, it was 1,887 weeks at the time of this fight. The time that he knocked out Jake Paul. Right now, we have 2 8s, and we have 7, man. Now, in other words, we have 187. When the Society of Jesus equals 187, and Brotherhood of Death equals 187 in the English language. Forwards, right? And we have backwards. This is the practice of Gematria. This is what these entertainment, sports, movies, entertainment as well, politics, it's all done by numerology and gematria. And this is what's going on, man. They're scripting out these fights, they're scripting out games, they're scripting out school shootings, you name it, man. Anything that's going on in mainstream media, right? It's being done by the numbers. Now, Society of Jesus, man, 187, man. Now, it was another athlete that was surrounded around these same numbers that we just talked about, right? But 187 is a slang reference to murder as well, right? In section 187 of the Penal Code, which defines the crime of murder, right? And we so happen to have, right, Anthony Joshua's best friend happened to be killed in a car crash. His coach, it was 2 people, right? So one of them was also his best friend and his personal trainer, and then the other one was his coach. Both died in this car crash 10 days after this knockout. But we seen the code for murder already showing itself when Anthony and Jake had that fight. Now, Wemby had just lost his granny. His grandmother had passed away the same day he lost the NBA Cup Finals. And look at the record of the Spurs and the Knicks in the NBA Cup Championship. And mind you, these records did not change after this championship game, because that game is the only game in the NBA Cup that does not affect team records. So after this championship, their records were still 18-7. In other words, 187, Brotherhood of Death. And then Wemby, grandmother, dies. Same thing Anthony Joshua. This time, he just wins. So it really don't matter in this game whether you win. A sacrifice gonna come whether you win or whether you lose. To play this game, you gotta make a sacrifice. Because although Wemby lost that game, Wemby is gonna go on to be one of the GOATs, man. As we can see how his career is panning out. So this little NBA Cup loss, what is an NBA Cup? Yeah, middle of the season championship. Who cares about it? You see what I'm saying? Who cares about that anyway? Right? That's not even saying much. Yeah, man, these sacrifices gotta happen, man. These rituals, they gotta go through. This ain't got nothing to do with Anthony Joshua not following no script. This was a script all along. Come on. Right? Because we see the same connections with Wemby the day he lost his grandmother. The span of his life. We got the same numbers, 187. Pay attention to that. We looking at the span of these people's lives. The day that these things happen to happen. And we getting the same numbers, man, 187. It just scrambled up. Same numbers though, same energy. The numbers themselves have the same energy, regardless of what order you put them in. Right? Because we even have 8,017 days old that Wemby was the day that he lost in the championship and the day that he lost his grandmother. Brotherhood of Death equals 817 in the Satanic Cipher and numerology rules. Zeros have no value. But come on, man. I'm just using him as a reference point, man. The next same day, he's sitting at the press conference. Gotta sit here and boo. You know what? Let me not do too much. The same day that his grandmother, the same day he's sitting here fighting back tears, right? Sitting here fighting back tears. Back to Anthony Joshua, 187. Right? The Brotherhood of Death. Jake Paul out of surgery, eating liquids for 7 days. Pay attention to all these numbers. We're going to circle back on them. After Anthony Joshua broke his jaw. Now the span of Joseph Paul's life, pay attention to these names too, biblical names. Jake Joseph Paul was 347 months old at the time of this fight. The Brotherhood of Death equals 347. The Brotherhood of Death is another name for skull and bones. So that's why in this skull and bones ritual, Jake Paul got his jawbone broken on his skull, right? You following me now? Now we seeing how these skull and bones rituals is really going on. Brotherhood of Death and Jake Paul was the victim, right, for this ritual. He even showed you in his last fight when he walked out fighting Mike Tyson that every time he fight, it's a skull and bones ritual. Look at the skull and bones on the back of his jacket. But this time, Skull and Bones defeated and they won and they beat Mike Tyson right before Donald Trump got in office. Y'all remember that? It was either right before or right after, right? But you see that Skull and Bones right on his jacket, showing you the Skull and Bones rituals that he's going through. Both of these people are involved in this Skull and Bones ritual. Nobody's exempt, right? Because 4 weeks and 1 day before Jake Paul's birthday, he goes down, breaks his jaw, breaks the bone in his jaw, in his skull. Skull and Bones equals 41, right? Then fast forward Anthony Joshua on 12/29, on December 29th, which is 41 date numerology. He loses two people very close to him, his coach and his personal trainer. On 41 date numerology, 41 weeks before his next birthday. Skull and Bones. So we see he broke his jaw. So now who got it worse? I say Anthony Joshua really got it worse. And this is the humiliation of the game. Jake Paul only had to lose a fight. Jake Paul only had to lose a fight and broke his jaw, but he gonna be good. His jaw gonna be good. You gotta eat liquids for 7 days. 7, the number of completion. It's a whole Jesuit ritual that they putting in front of you. Jake Paul just had to lose a fight and get his jaw broke. Anthony Joshua had to be in a car crash with two people and it looked like they put him in the car. It didn't even look like he was in that car when that car crashed. It like that car crashed and then they put him in that car. You seen him in there just sitting there, unscathed, unbothered with his shirt off. It just looked like a whole little play. Everything they do just like a production. Everything is a character. They always got to stay in character. You know, he's this big boxer, this big heavyweight boxer. So yeah, he got to be in the car with his shirt off. You see what I'm saying? It just looks so, everything just looks too strategic. You see what I'm saying? Man, they probably put Cuz in that car afterwards. But come on. Right? Because this car crash even happened on the 76th day of Anthony Joshua's age. Like Skull and Bones equals 76. Yeah, 6-7. There go that 6-7 whole time, all this time. The fight was also on 76-day numerology. Skull and Bones, 76. Skull and Bones, aka the Brotherhood of Death. This is what Jake Paul was the one that experienced. Well, they both experienced the Brotherhood of Death. But on this day, December 19th, that's when Jake Paul's Skull and Bones numbers hit. And that's why he was the one that lost that night. 11 months and 2 days after his birthday. The Brotherhood of Death equal 112, aka Skull and Bones, then he break his jaw. Now, let's talk about, since we speaking about the Brotherhood of Death, let's just talk about death for a second, right? Because the death of Anthony Joshua's coach and personal trainer was on the first week and the fourth day of that fight, when the word dead equals 14 in the ordinal cipher, D being the fourth letter of the alphabet, so on and so forth, E being the fifth, A being the first. Add that up, 14. Now in Cantonese, 14 sounds just like must die. In Mandarin, 14 sounds like is dead or want death. 14 is phonetically close to must die. So the way that you say 14 in Cantonese sounds very similar to must die. So that's why in Jake Paul's 14th fight of his career, he broke his jaw. Paul equals 14. Paul must die. In this fight, it was symbolic. It was symbolic. Paul, 14, dead, 14 in his 14th match. Then on the first week and the fourth day of that, Anthony Joshua's coach and personal trainer are dead. But come on, man. Come on. Because Anthony Joshua won this fight and remained on 4 losses in his career. In Mandarin, Cantonese, Japanese, and Korean, the word for sounds very close to the word for death. So we keep on getting this number 4, man. It's number 4 and it's number 14 linked to death. And then we seen the reflection of 1441, Skull and Bones. It's all linked together, man. It's all linked together, man. I know you see that 33 right there. So let's just go ahead and get into it then. Right? Because once again, man, the span of Anthony Joshua's life was 187 basically, right? 1887 weeks, 187. Society of Jesus equals 187. So let's get to this Jesuit ritual. Let's get to it. Society of Jesus. Anthony Joshua's next birthday is on the 9th month and 27th day of this fight, which was a tribute to, once again, the Jesuit order, whose anniversary is on the 9th month and the 27th day, September 27th. That was Anthony Joshua's 33rd fight. It was his 33rd fight that he won. His 33rd fight. Then he even go on Instagram to shout out to the 33 million viewers that the fight brought in. Man, come on, man. We are all one under God's eyes. $33 million, right? Then Anthony Joshua wins his 33rd fight. That was also his 29th win. He got his 29th win in his 33rd fight, when Masonic equals 29 and Masonry equals 33, continuing the Jesuit ritual with the Jesuit story of Jesus dying at the age of 33, right? Masonic equals 29. Jesus equals 29. Anthony's last name is Joshua. This is a very biblical name. Joshua equals 29 as well in the same cipher. Joshua in the Bible was Moses' trusted aide who succeeded him as leader, guiding the Israelites after the Exodus into the promised land through military conquest and faithful obedience to God, known for his courage and leadership in battles like Jericho and his role in dividing the land among the tribes. His story is central to the book of Joshua, highlighting his transformation from an Egyptian-born slave to a revered general and spiritual successor to Moses, symbolizing God's salvation. And that was his 33rd fight. And then here he go telling you 33 million and telling you we are all under God's eyes. Yeshua. This is why they script these fights together. They're symbolic. They're telling you a story. These fights are symbolic. Now let's talk about Jacob, Joseph, Paul. He has 3 biblical names, right? Paul was the missionary that was spreading the gospel to the Roman Empire, to the Holy Roman Empire, aka the Jesuits. Joseph was Jacob's son. Jacob was renamed Israel by God after wrestling with the divine being, signifying his struggle and perseverance with God and man, with the name meaning one who strives with God or God fights. Although he was renamed Israel, the Bible continues to use both names, with some interpreting Jacob as his earthly trickster self and Israel as his spiritual transformed self, representing his new relationship with God. So Jacob was renamed Israel due to struggling, fighting a divine being. His struggle, fighting a divine being in his 33rd fight. Jeshua, Jacob going against Jeshua. This is biblical. Symbolize and that defeat. And look what that defeat symbolized. Leading the Israelites to the promised land. Look at this whole picture. Look at this whole picture. Look at this whole scenario. Look at the people fighting. Look at them. Look at how they look. Look at the story. Look at the names. Right? Look at everything that's going on. Look at this whole picture and see what they're painting to you. Right? Because the book of Joshua is the 6th book in the Hebrew Bible. When Anthony Joshua defeats Jake Paul by the 6th round. Come on, man. Come on. Right? Because Joshua even improves to 29-4. And then Jake Paul, Joshua improves to 29-4, while Paul falls to 12-2. Anthony Olaseni Joshua equals 294 in the English language backwards. His numbers perfectly aligned. He improved to 29-4, just like his name. And then you see who they're tributing in these fights. You see it for yourself. Paul, and he was the one. Paul in the Bible was the one that was spreading Jesus' ministry through Rome, aka the Society of Jesus. When he falls to 12-2 when Iesus Hominum Salvator equals 122, which is it's Latin for Jesus, Savior of mankind, which is that's the IHS. That's where the Jesuit order gets the IHS from in their logo. This is a whole Jesuit ritual, man. This is a whole Jesuit ritual. And then you see the other societies that get tributed as well. Society of Jesus, Skull and Bones, and Freemasonry with that 33rd win, with that 33rd fight. Well, come on, man. Because everything, and then this is a little piece of Jake Paul's humiliation, right? Is because he has to make this his profile picture of him getting knocked out by Jeshua, symbolizing his struggle with God, just like Jacob in scripture, right? And he even has 28.8 million followers. Just like how Anthony Joshua was born on the 288th day of the year. Even October 15th, AJ's birthday, leaves 77 days left. And that's the person who we end up fighting, Jake Paul, 77. The ritual is complete. God's number for perfection, 7. 7. And then he fights, he takes on Jake Paul, defeats him, right? God's number for perfection, 7-7. And that was his 33rd match. You see what's going on. You see, G, Masonic. G is the 7th letter of the alphabet. That's why the Masons put that G in the Masonic. And then look at this. The black man beating up the white man, brought to you by Kentucky Fried Chicken, right? But come on, man. That's all we got for this video, man. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this video, man. Appreciate y'all for all the love. Appreciate y'all for all the support. And I'm out.